There's a great deal of shenanigans going on with statistics when it comes to the recent vaccine. For example, in Sweden and many other countries, you're not counted as vaccinated until 3 weeks after you've been jabbed. This allows them to conveniently ignore the people having the worst, most obvious, and immediate side effects, or I should say damage, and in some cases this may even be lethal. And it is damage because it's not a medication, it's a reaction, and a treatment that could damage your white blood cells with very significant consequences. One of these consequences can be lack of energy, which can last for years afterwards or even be permanent. In fact, it probably will be permanent if you don't actively take steps to reverse the issue.
I thought we agreed to come having taken our medicine. You know, if we don't get serious, we're never going to make it.
But do we make it?
Are you kidding? Please, man, what are you guys, high?
So your arm only hurts after you lie on top of it all night?
Yeah.
Well, have you thought about, I don't know, not doing that?
First off, what's going on here that's making you so weak and tired? In short, it's almost certainly liver function that's the issue. Even in a normal infection and even with a normal vaccine, clearing out antibodies in the vaccine itself is hard on the liver, and in some cases even hard on the kidneys. Though they're passed out like candy, all vaccines are very serious medications. In fact, anything that requires a prescription is very serious medicine, and it will kill you if you take it wrong, or if you take too much, or if you take it combined with the wrong thing. On my last video about DMSO, someone left a very angry comment saying I must not know PubMed exists, even though I post more excerpts from PubMed than any other channel on YouTube, at least that I've ever seen. DMSO is proven to be far safer than most medications approved by the FDA. He said, well, that could be true, but that doesn't say anything much. And I definitely don't recommend taking medications over the counter or without a very compelling reason. They're all inherently risky and they're not to be played around with. And that's the good ones which have been fully tested and used for decades to judge their worth, and where the all too common fraud in the pharmaceutical industry doesn't come into play. That doesn't include experimental gene therapy treatments that cause your cells to produce large numbers of toxic spike proteins which bind to the receptors in your body to cause clots and scarring. This is a process that will go on indefinitely if the immune system does not shut it down by literally killing every cell doing this. This also occurs in other vaccines, but these vaccines don't concentrate on an extremely dangerous protein like this, which the body would never normally make. And for all of you guys who are worried about the size of your shoulders, well, the last thing you want to do is take a vaccine because you're going to lose some of that muscle tissue. And keep in mind, even the infection itself would be much safer because only small amounts of the virus or toxic spike protein. The body tries very hard to produce antibodies that are harmless to the rest of the body, but the messenger RNA process bypasses the normal route that the body takes when it's creating acquired immunity. Done this way, there is only a narrow range of antibodies that can be created which are going to bind to the spike because the protein only has so many things to bind to. These are also likely to interfere with your ACE receptors too because they have to be similar to the protein. And they have to have an affinity to the toxic spike, so it's probably also toxic. The spike itself is also very harmful to the liver, causing scarring both by its breakdown and by directly stimulating the ACE receptor to cause fibrosis, which is maybe the worst thing that the disease actually does do that causes problems. Most of the rest is just overblown or would already happen, say, with the flu, at least in people who had that level of ill health. And on top of all of this, the mRNA that makes it to your liver is also going to deliver messenger RNA into your liver cells and cause the same problem. And the only way this ever stops is when the immune system kills these cells off. Until then, it just goes on and on. So this is obviously going to cause a lot of liver damage. It sounds like a science fiction nightmare or something that's a weird conspiracy theory, but that's simply actually how your body deals with foreign proteins. People just aren't aware of this.
And here we're seeing it reading this RNA here, but this is the synthetic RNA from the virus. So in a sense, this is producing a synthetic spike protein. But it's being produced, the spike protein is being produced in the cytoplasm of the cell as the ribosome translates the genetic information from this genetic sequence that's been injected and transported via the lipid nanoparticle to produce this spike protein. In a sense, we could call it a synthetic spike protein. Now here's the spike proteins here, growing up. But here they're growing up on the surface of our own body cells. So these look like mushrooms popping up here, but it's not. This is the spike protein being produced, popping up on the surface of body cells. The spike protein that's been produced by this synthetic RNA that's got there from the lipid nanoparticle. And because the lipid nanoparticles are systemically distributed, because they go everywhere, this can happen in any cell of the body. Any cell of the body that the messenger RNA comes into contact with can start producing these spikes. And of course these are quite abnormal. They're not supposed to be there. They're foreign proteins. Now, what's supposed to happen when a cell is infected by a virus? And remember, viruses are obligate intracellular parasites. They can only reproduce inside other cells. And the immune system patrols the outside of the cell. So the immune system patrols the body humus and the body tissues. It doesn't go inside the cells. So if there's a viral infection inside one of our cells, that viral biochemistry is going on inside the cell. And the cell wants to alert the immune system that there's a viral infection inside it. But the immune system can't see into the cell. So what the cell does is very clever. It takes some of the viral proteins and it transports those to the surface of the cell and it expresses those on the body cell. So if you have a virally infected cell, that will be expressing viral proteins on the surface of your body cell. And in that case, the immune system will see it and the cells of the immune system will destroy that infected cell. So to begin with, we have cells called natural killer cells, the large lymphocytes, and they will kill virally infected cells. And then later on we have cytotoxic small T cells, small lymphocytes, that will kill virally infected cells. Now the reason that the body kills the virally infected cells, even though it means killing its own body cells, is that it's killing the places where the viruses are replicating. If the immune system doesn't kill the infected cell, then that cell will generate thousands of copies of the virus. They will float off and infect other cells and the viral infection will proliferate. So the body thinks, so let's cut my losses and we'll just eradicate the cell.
All of this is potentially very, very hard on your liver and can even cause liver failure. In fact, even a common flu sometimes causes liver failure and then kidney failure, because that's just what happens when you produce lots and lots of antibodies. And this is likely why liver failure of unknown cause has dramatically increased. This is happening even in teenagers and young children, which is basically unheard of. And you won't hear any of this on network TV. Fortunately, people who watch this channel are probably smart enough not to take anything they say very seriously at this point anyway.
You and I are so smart.
I knew instantly you could help me. Thank you. You are a truly advanced intellect. I don't know how you manage amongst these others.
I don't know how I do either. I really don't.
I imagine anyone paying attention is following along easily so far, but what may confuse you is how this affects your energy levels. Isn't energy created by calories, and all you have to do is eat more carbs to get it?
What are you eating?
It's a donut stuffed with M&Ms. That way when you finish the donut, you don't have to eat any M&Ms.
Unfortunately, no. In fact, munching carbs is the last thing you want to do for more energy, though it may work temporarily as a little boost for 15 minutes. Weston Price famously studied a pair of twins, one who ate the food his parents provided, which was mainly healthy animal products such as eggs and bacon and meat and vegetables. The other loved to eat mainly toast and jam for his meals, and he would eat very little else. One rose early in the morning while the other would always oversleep. One was successful in school and did his chores easily while the other always shirked. One had perfect teeth and the other constantly had cavities. Can you guess which is which? It was the carb muncher who had all these problems, of course. Carbs are very bad for your liver in excessive amounts, and even small amounts of fructose are bad for your liver because fructose is actually metabolized into alcohol before it can be further processed by the liver. That means it basically directly becomes fat in the liver, causing liver scarring called cirrhosis, all without getting any of the fun effects.
It's kind of strange to have a guy sitting here with a bottle in front of him.
Well, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
Your bloodstream can only hold about a teaspoon worth of glucose at any given time. Any more than that has to be dealt with. That is, it has to be taken out of the blood supply or you're going to pass away. While insulin is the hormone trigger that causes this to happen, it's mainly the liver that has to deal with this problem. You can easily eat 100 grams or more of carbs in a single meal, and that's about how much the diabetes pyramid the government wants us to eat from suggests that we have with each meal, in spite of the fact that this is enough to clog up the entire glycogen stores of the liver. That's a lot for the liver to soak up, and while exercise quote-unquote scientists...
Brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Why do you keep saying that?
Because they pay me every time I do. It's a really good way to make money. You're so smart, why don't you know that?
will claim that all this glucose goes into your muscles and becomes glycogen, making your muscles bigger. This isn't really true. While your muscles do have glycogen stores, they can only safely take in what they've actually used up through recent exercise. Otherwise, what little glucose they take in will become ectopic fat. That means your actual muscle cells will become fatty and dysfunctional. They're full of fatty diglycerides, and your muscles are weaker and they're flabbier. Shows like Naked and Afraid prove that carbs don't really make your muscles look bigger. In fact, they always look more muscular at the end, even though they have basically been starving for weeks or even months at a time. That's because they're getting rid of all the carb bloat almost everyone today has. If you aren't on performance enhancing illegal substances, then most of these carbs will cause bloating in your gut and in your subcutaneous region below your skin. And this makes you look way worse. It doesn't make you look better. And don't think that these people are losing tremendous amounts of fat even though they're losing weight. Most of it's just water weight. And like your muscles, carbs are bad for your liver, but even more so. It simply has to take in those sugars to keep you alive, and the more it takes in, the fattier it gets, and the more non-functional it becomes.
Now the liver I believe, is one of the unsung heroes or unappreciated heroes when it comes to human metabolism. And there are two processes I want to highlight, and that is the liver's ability to both make lipid and to make glycogen, the storage form of glucose. So it's the liver's one of the tricks the liver has to once glucose has been pulled in, it will store it. So it's just a way to help buffer the glucose levels in the blood. If glucose levels are high, the liver can pull in some of that, more than what it needs for its own energy demands. And then when glucose goes low, the liver can break that glycogen down and share it with the blood or with the body. So that's the definitions there, the production of fat and the production of glycogen. Insulin, of course, as it has its hand in so many things, also has its hand in these events as well. In particular, it stimulates both of them. Insulin will both stimulate the production of lipid and the production of glycogen. With insulin resistance in the liver, there's an interesting phenomenon, and it is reflective of the fact that insulin resistance is not just a global effect within the cell. It is not that every event that insulin used to do is not happening. And let me get into that just to make that clear. When the liver is insulin resistant, lipogenesis is still activated when insulin comes knocking at the door, so to speak, when insulin binds its insulin receptor. So to make that clear, even if the liver is insulin resistant, insulin can still stimulate lipogenesis. In contrast, in the insulin resistant liver, insulin is less able to make glycogen, so it's less able to tell the liver to store glucose. And this loss of stimulating glycogenesis means we have a reduction. We actually end up, insulin loses its ability to prevent the breakdown of glycogen. So now we have glycogenolysis. This event is disrupted in insulin resistance. And so now we have a liver that is supposed to be holding on to glucose. It's actually letting it go. But it's not supposed to. Remember, that's the pathology here. Insulin is trying to stimulate, or it ought to be stimulating, glucose uptake and storage. It's not working anymore. So the liver doesn't get the signal not to break down glycogen, and so it does. It's not being inhibited, the glycogenolysis. And this, of course, drives up blood glucose levels. So once again, if we look at this paradigm of the progression towards full-blown type 2 diabetes, with the liver being insulin resistant, we've pushed that a little further down the road. The patient has progressed a little further towards full-blown type 2 diabetes. So they're getting this mounting hyperglycemia.
Eventually it can't do its job anymore and you get type 2 diabetes, but long before then, you get the symptoms that are less often talked about. That is constant fatigue. And the worse the damage to your liver, the worse the fatigue. While your liver takes away sugar, it is also responsible for dishing out blood sugar and ketones as they're needed. Your cells also become insulin resistant over time as your body becomes less and less able to take in all the blood glucose. And that means it takes way more blood sugar to get them any energy at all. So you both need more glucose and you can supply less. So what does that cause? Lack of energy, especially when it comes to your brain, which runs much cleaner when using ketones. It can also burn ketones even when the cell is unable to take in glucose, and this can rescue cells that would otherwise perish and allow them to restore full functionality. However, ketones simply won't be available when you have a fatty or scarred liver, and it may take some time to get it into good enough shape. So you may think your liver is just a detoxifying organ, and it is important for that, but its most important activity by far is supplying your body with energy. Without it, you'd pass away in about 3 minutes, which is even faster than if your heart stopped beating. And if it is not working well, you're not going to have much energy at all.
Well, sir, I think it is time to turn this pledge drive over to Troy McClure. I can't keep up this pace forever.
If your liver is in bad enough shape, you will never ever feel anything but exhausted and weak. Unfortunately, this also makes fasting very difficult. That's unfortunate because not only is the best thing for your liver, but it's also the best way to stop your body from producing more spikes if it's still doing so. And it's proven that in many of these people who get those shots, they're producing them years and years later. As I alluded to earlier, when nanoparticles deliver mRNA into a cell, it's ribosomes that start producing the spike protein. The cell has essentially become infected, much as if it were exposed to a virus. And the normal course at that point is for the immune system to eventually destroy this cell, and that stops the spread of the infection. The only way to interrupt this process is fasting, which can actually stop these ribosomes from completing their job, and even the ribosome itself may be eaten by the cell because it's extraneous at this point. Unfortunately, it's even worse when you have the mRNA, because unlike a typical virus, the nanoparticles also damage any immune bodies they come into contact with. This is a very big problem because it includes all your important T cells, and this leads to serious health consequences. And it also damages your macrophages, which are the cells that are needed to destroy the rogue cells that are producing these spikes. It also means your body is simply not going to be able to get rid of the spike producing cells, not for everyone anyway, and they're going to keep shooting out all of these spikes, and this causes cirrhosis over time. This also can lead to immune cell exhaustion, and this is where taurine comes in. Taurine is not just needed for all protein folding in the body, but also for all phagocytosis, and that's the process the body uses to get rid of these malfunctioning cells. Without enough taurine, even fasting may not be enough to get the job done, and taurine is shown experimentally to re-energize cells after they've become depleted, so your immune cells that were unable to work anymore start to function again. Taurine also directly helps the liver by reducing cirrhosis and boosting mitochondrial health, and it's actually good for removing all scars, so this is going to help with COPD, physical scars, and anything else you can think of. Many of the links in the description are to supplements that help the liver. Alpha-ketoglutarate helps a great deal due to protecting it from damage and scarring. Cysteine and glycine are required to make glutathione, which your liver requires to detoxify itself. Betaine Anhydrous, aka TMG, provides methyl groups which your liver needs and which can become very important when it's damaged. In fact, they all help in some ways, and they all help with your mitochondria, which are very important for your liver. So if it's possible at all, then just get them if you have a serious issue like this. Theoretically, I do get a percentage of the sales for anything you purchase through the links, but I haven't gotten any money from them since they changed their affiliate plan from ShareASale to AWIN, and I'm starting to think I probably never will. So don't think this is about the $2 they kick back to me if someone buys a kilogram of taurine. The total amount, even when I did get money, is way less than the ad revenue from the channel, and honestly the ad revenue on a channel this size is pretty much laughable. On the other hand, most people don't realize that Jerry Seinfeld, for example, makes millions at big pharma conferences doing very short comedy sets, and this is true of a whole lot of celebrities. So keep that in mind next time he goes on a tirade about vaccines or some other political topic. Knowing what I know, I wouldn't recommend it to the public for $1 billion. But then most people don't seem to care about whether they actually know something about a topic before speaking. So don't ask me about this and that and the other and demand 50 million studies, which I have posted time and again anyway, and I have videos on all of these. If you have these serious issues, just get all the supplements. That won't be a magic cure, but without it, some people won't even be able to start recovering. It always amazes me that some people will come here on the channel for years saying they have all these problems, but whatever I do to spell it out for them, they simply don't take the advice, no matter how I phrase it.
Until you come and get him, we're not to enter the room. No, you stay in the room. I'll make sure he doesn't leave. Right. Where are you going? We're coming with you.
As I said, fasting is the best possible thing for your liver, and liver autophagy from fasting will do wonders to regenerate it. So will the growth hormone release from fasting. Most people can just start fasting with no issues, so don't think you have to do all this stuff if this doesn't apply to you. But when you have liver damage and post-viral or post-vax syndrome, or you have lots and lots of trouble fasting, you're probably going to need the supplements to get the full effect, especially taurine. MCT oil and exogenous ketones will also help. This will make it easier to fast and also directly provide energy to your brain and liver. Eggs and liver are also going to help both your energy levels and your liver health. Choline is needed for your liver to get rid of liver fat, but don't take it as a supplement. Get it through the diet, or else take Betaine Anhydrous, which is sort of like a form of choline, or better yet, just do both. Liver is chock full of B vitamins that are vital for energy production in your mitochondria, especially when it comes to fat burning. And all low carb animal products also have a lot of things that you need, like carnosine and carnitine, etc. If you have trouble fasting or lots of fatigue, then liver is a must. I like to make liver and bacon, or just have some liverwurst directly from the roll. Just try to stick to beef or lamb liver as much as possible. They're much less likely to be contaminated with any weird stuff that they might have in the feed. Exercise can also help with liver fat, but maybe not the kind you're thinking of. It's actually weightlifting and muscle building that help the liver, because the more mitochondria you have in the body, the more blood glucose you burn over time. So while it's basically a lie that muscle will take in your blood sugar when it gets high and make your muscles bigger, it is going to help you burn off calories over time, and this helps your liver get rid of liver fat and glycogen throughout the day, and this makes it less likely you're overburdening your liver. Muscle is good for you, it just can't overcome an excessively high carb diet. But the number one thing for your liver will always be fasting. It may be very hard to start when your liver is damaged, but MCT oil and exogenous ketones can make it much easier. It will also get easier and easier as fasting repairs the liver itself. In many with vaccine damage, you may need to do some fasting simply to fix your immune system. Otherwise, you may never get rid of the spike-producing cells that are continuously poisoning you. That means you need fasts of 72 plus hours, preferably 96 hours at a time. A fast of this length will get rid of about 1/3 of your white blood cells and replace them with new and healthy ones. This also includes a small number of T cells as well, which require stem cell releases. The stem cell release will also help your liver regenerate and create new and healthy liver cells able to rapidly divide all throughout the liver. And it's only these longer fasts where you get these stem cells. While a low carb diet may help your liver over the course of months and months or maybe years, this may not be enough, especially if your body is still producing spikes. And if you have problems even years later, that's almost certainly the case. Or you could just assume the government's crack vaccine injury squad. We'll get around to you someday and get the job done.
I'm here to shave your privates.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, but first I gotta shave your privates.
Thanks again, guys, for all of your support, liking the videos, commenting, joining the channel, and supporting it on Ko-Fi.com. I really appreciate you guys, and it helps a great deal. Without your support, no one else would even get to see this channel, because it's just not going to be in their feed. Now, I'd hate for all of this hard work to go for nothing. There's still people with a lot of back issues even years later. You can't miraculously solve all these problems overnight, but many of them can be addressed if you put forth some effort. The supplements in the description will help a lot, such as taurine, which is required by the body to make TUDCA, and cysteine and glycine, which are needed to make glutathione. Betaine Anhydrous is needed for methyl group support for your liver and for liver fat mobilization, and on and on. In fact, just take all of them, as they can all help the liver in some way and are all helpful in supporting your ability to fast. Low carb can also help, but it is really fasting that's going to fix your liver over time. And just keep in mind, without large amounts of taurine, fasting can't do its job properly and people have serious issues. So try and at least get some taurine in as soon as possible if you can. It's also important to realize, once your cells are affected with the mRNA and start producing spikes, your body has to kill them off. That's the only way it can shut this process down. Until then, they continue producing spikes and your liver is continuously damaged. Fasting 72 plus hours is the exception here, and it can actually lead to some of these cells destroying those ribosomes and stopping the problem without killing the cells. And this is also going to repair your liver by stimulating autophagy and phagocytosis and releasing new stem cells to not only heal your liver but also your immune system itself. It will also aid the process of shutting down any cells still producing these damaging spikes. Fasts of less than 72 hours will still help the liver, but it is really the 72 plus hour fasts that are going to have the real healing benefits over time. Just make sure you have the nutritional support to succeed, especially from animal products and nutrients like taurine. It can be very hard going, but if you keep plugging away and slowly increasing the length of your fasts, you'll definitely get there eventually.
Never give up. Never surrender. Oh, shut up. No. Never give up. Never surrender.